All right, it's December 10th. This is the City of Watertown Public Works Commission meeting, and I will call it to order, and I will stipulate that we have a quorum. Alder Smith is not present, but the other members are here. With the caller at 608-377-3400, is that you, Zach?
I'm a citizen, Ian Pilak.
Okay, thank you. All right, our first item of business is comments and suggestions from citizens present. Is there anyone that would like to address a topic that is not on our agenda this evening? All right, I see none. So I'll go to item 3, which is a review and approve of minutes. You have 2 minutes before you, November 12th and November 20th. I can take one motion or two. You're going to move to approve both simultaneously?
Yes. I'd second that.
All right, any comments or questions? Did I make any mistakes there?
None that I saw.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Very good. We'll go to item 4. First item of business. Item A is review and take possible action, the wastewater facilities plan approval and public hearing date. I would call the commissioner's attention to our November 12th minutes, which has our discussion about the wastewater plan in it, but Pete, it's all you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I was going to reflect back on that as well. At that previous meeting, we picked our option moving forward and we had some questions and clarification asked for by this commission, and the included with the packet today was pulled out the chapter 1, the executive summary from the facilities plan. And we updated the dates in that plan to reflect the decision made on our option moving forward. So what we are noting was in pulling that out, it is estimated that the current utility rates are sufficient for additional revenue requirements for the proposed near-term project. The final cost allocation and user charge rates will be determined from a user charge study after final project costs, Clean Water Fund project impacts, and methods of financing are determined. That was on the 9th page where it did already indicate that the comment on the utility rates and the updated schedule is included there.
And that's on page 6 of our packet tonight.
Thank you. We also had included a copy of the public hearing notice, which was published on the 3rd and the 10th. Tonight, we're looking for action from this commission to approve the facilities plan contingent upon the completion of the public hearing, setting the date of the public hearing at 12/17 next week. At that meeting after the public hearing, following what Andrew and I had discussed, we could follow what we do with the plan commission and bring it back to the commission. If there are any comments that we need to address based on the public hearing. To date, I have not had any response from the public regarding the facilities plan. No comments or questions or requests to review the plan.
At who's meeting on December 17th?
That's the city council meeting.
Are we meeting on the 16th next week? Today's the 10th, right? It would be. Okay, Mike, you're right.
Okay, thank you.
So what you're looking for is a motion to approve the wastewater facilities plan as amended and to set the public hearing date of December 17th, 2024 before city council.
Yes, I believe that the wording should be approving the plan contingent upon completion of the public hearing. Date being 12/17.
Would we necessarily approve a plan that we haven't heard any public comment on yet?
That's why it's contingent upon completion of the public hearing. I believe that way, this commission does have the authority to approve this plan. But we can bring it back after the public hearing, or we can have it contingent upon the public hearing. And we don't need to bring it back, but if the commission wishes, we can do whatever you like.
Yeah, I guess if there's no public comment, then it's fine. If there's something of note, maybe it should come back and we'll know after next Tuesday.
I'm okay either way. I doubt very much we're gonna have a meeting on the 24th.
Yeah.
Is there
Right.
a bringing presents with
I
you?
believe the next meeting would be in January.
Yeah. Would there be an issue if we had to wait till January?
Um,
Change the timeline, right?
um,
Few weeks.
Could be, we did plan to submit the facility plan to the DNR this month after the public hearing, if there weren't any additional follow-up comments requiring follow-up action.
But there's no issues with, if there's a 2-week delay or whatever. There's no issue if there was a delay, right? Really a big. No, I know time
DNR is gonna
thing.
take 90 days,
Oh,
so the sooner we get it to them, the sooner we get it back.
What's your pleasure, man?
I'm fine with that contingency.
So is your motion that we approve the wastewater facilities plan as amended contingent upon the completion of the public hearing, which was set for December 17th before the city council?
I
Very
didn't
good,
make the
Pete.
motion, but
Your motion?
I,
I agree with Pete.
yeah, sure, that's my motion.
Like the way he said it.
Just trying to move it along, you know? All right. Anybody have any questions on that motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, item B on our agenda is to review and take possible action, approve and verify the remaining funding breakouts for the private lead service replacement program and census tract, parentheses CT 1002, CT 9620, and CT citywide.
Okay, thank you. We also have Justin Billskemper on a phone call here, so he can join in to help clarify anything for the commission members, if you have that. So what we have in front of you, there's a lot of information that was provided. This does go back many years to when we started our program. What we are right now, go to the latest information. The DNR issued a press release and shared the statewide project ranking in November 4th of 2024 of the state fiscal year 2025 private lead service replacement funding. Watertown ranked very well and will be funded for total shared project rankings for the private lead service replacement program. The breakdown was close to what we had estimated with principal forgiveness loan calculations prepared by Strand. All the costs not funded through the private or remaining costs, public side, which we pay for ourselves, the principal forgiveness should come in the form of a 0.25% interest loan. All of our applications received at least 50% principal forgiveness with the breakdown follows, and I provided the chart there. So we did 3 census tracts to try and score more points and get more principal forgiveness, and we were successful in doing so. Which was well thought out by Strand to do it that way. And November 15th, the water department was required to mail out individual letters to all of our customers who had a lead or galvanized or unknown water service. We did mail out 1,078 letters. That was a requirement that came from the DNR later than expected. We didn't have a lot of time to comply with that. We did submit a materials inventory, and then we got a confirmation back, but then another deadline, which wasn't communicated very well. So, but we did carry that out. But the breakdown of the areas, I did provide a map, and I apologize if you can't blow it up or look at it very well, but it does list citywide all of the lead services that are remaining. And we have the census tracts dotted around on there, so you can kind of get an idea of where those are in the city. And obviously the central city has the majority of them. So when we look at the breakdown of these areas, which the private side will receive 100% or 75% from the DNR. It is assuming these areas are being the Census Tract 1002 and Census Tract 9620. Those should not have to pay anything because it's 100% funded, or the program will kick in another 25%. There are other areas that fall outside of those two census tracts that will receive only 50% principal forgiveness from the DNR. Although we can kick in another 50%, our program is limited. That other kick-in is from the PSC authorization to use ratepayer dollars. We had previously got that approved in a rate case, leading up to this, thinking we might be needing that. So that program limits us to 50% of the 5,000. So that means if a lead service replacement costs 6,000, DNR will pay 3,000, and the PSC program allows us to pay another 2,500, leaving a
Pete,
$500
there's
bill
ju-
for the property owner.
Go ahead, Justin.
Oh, Justin, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we got those two items struck out. You might not have the most up-to-date memo in front of you. I think we misunderstood the PSC language. It was 50% of the cost up to a maximum grant amount of 5,000. So I think that was maybe me misinterpreting the PSC application. So I think that the private costs will be covered in some way, shape, or form, as long as the private costs do not exceed $10,000 total, right? Because then 50% would be funded through the DNR, 50% would then be funded through water rates. So that would be anything under $10,000. I really can't see any private LSL costing more than $10,000. It would have to be like a super long, complicated lot at that point. So I think everything's good on the private side.
Okay, thank you, Justin. So following our municipal code, that we allow the city to offer eligible customers a grant to pay for up to 50% of the cost to replace the private side service, with a maximum of 5,000. Any cost above this amount would be provided in the form of a loan to the property owner over a 10-year period at a 2.5% interest rate payback. That's listed in our city code 51287. So any significant changes to the PSC's program must first receive approval from the PSC. But because now we know exactly how much the funding the city will receive for each of these three applications, the actual expenses can be somewhat narrowed down. So we do have to bid the project before we get the actual numbers. We won't know those costs. So this might have to involve a conversation with PSC to see if their approval is needed based on the principal forgiveness allocations and the upcoming bid results. Total number of private lead services to replace 1,109. Census Tract 1002 has 433 private LSLs that will be provided 100% principal forgiveness from DNR, so no loan is expected for those property owners. The Census Tract 9620 contains 230 private LSLs that will be provided with 75% principal forgiveness from DNR. The remaining 25% is expected to be funded through the PSC program using water rates, so no loan is expected for the property owners. The remainder of the city contains 446 private LSLs and will be provided with 50% principal forgiveness from the DNR. This is where the remaining 50% is expected to be funded through the PSC program using water rates, so no loan is expected for the property owners. There are 440 public side lead services in the city, which are categorized as remaining cost and will be provided 10% principal forgiveness from the DNR. The remainder of those costs will be taken out as a loan from the DNR. So also included with your packet was the letter that we've been using for for the authorization to replace the lead service line. So this is something that we actually have a lot of people who have already filled these out and they're on our waiting list. This has gone through a couple of attorney reviews. It's the same one that we're using now. So anyone that has that lead service line does have to authorize the city to replace that line. We certainly hope that nobody opts out. Our ordinance does allow us to force that then at their expense, 100%. So far, we've had 100% compliance. So that's good. Although this new program moving forward is all the rest of them, which is obviously, as we've listed the numbers quite a bit. So we have had to chase down people in the past to get them to sign off and give us rights to do it on their property. I also included a copy of the PSC final decision. In case anyone had time to read that or has questions, you can ask us. Our ordinance was also included in the packet. And right now, I would put it back to the commission members if you have any questions. And we do have, again, have Justin who can help answer any of those remaining questions.
Justin, can you tell me who you're with?
Strand Associates out of Madison, Wisconsin.
Commissioners have any questions?
Is this going to be a multi-year contract or a bid every year with a different contractor?
We applied for all the remaining and we expect to spread it out for 3 years and do approximately 500 a year, addressing the partial private side lead services in 2025 of approximately 500, another 500 in 2026, and then the remaining full services just shy of 500 in 2027, which would be the last and final year. And at the completion of 2027, all of the lead services in the city of Watertown that we know of will have been removed.
But this is all one contract
Yes,
for a 3-year term.
that's correct, Justin, right? We'll be awarding this contract and it's a 3-year contract for whoever the contractor.
Yes, that is the expectation, so we can capture all the funding at once. While the funding is still available, because there's only, well, we missed the deadline to submit anything this past October, so there's really only 1 year left of funding if we hadn't tried to capture all 1,500 replacements at a single time.
So what are you asking us to do this evening? What's the motion you would like to see us do?
Well, part of this, bringing it forward was obviously we're just getting to this point where we know where the funding is and we're going to be bidding the project. I wanted to have some awareness for the commission, and I'm looking for your support to and approval of the funding allocations and the sources for the 2025 private and public lead service replacement citywide program. Knowing that up to this point, all of the lead services replaced, which was 716, have none of the property owners have had to pay anything. So as you see here, we have identified several hundred where there could be a $500 cost associated with that replacement of the lead service. So
I'd
our
also
goal-
like to note that the conventional rate case, I don't know if Pete, you've been telling them about that as well.
Oh, it's been in front of the commission, yes.
Yeah, that was recently submitted just this past week, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that was needed, one, as a condition to meet the PSC requirement as part of its final decision, and 2, to get the city in front of being able to pay back this loan basically for portions of the private services and for, you know, the 90% of the public services that would not be funded through the DNR, all of which would be funded through or repaid back through ratepayer dollars.
I'm trying to find something. Other questions? So Pete, this was my question. The agenda item approve and verify funding breakouts for the private lead service replacement program and census tract, and the 3 census tracts and citywide remaining. Your memo on page 18 of our package. Recommendation is support and approve funding allocations and sources for the 2025 private and public lead service replacement citywide program. So again, I have a very basic question. What are you asking us to approve? Which one of those are you asking us to vote on?
Approve and verify the funding breakouts for the private lead service replacement program in census tract CT 1002, CT 9620, and CT citywide remaining.
So how is that different than your memo? What page did I say that was on page 18?
My recommendation is worded differently. The action I'm looking you to take was in the beginning, the review and take action. My apologies. I summarized it slightly different in the recommendation.
Okay. Is that clear for everybody? Gentlemen, what would you like to do? Go ahead.
So I just want to say, Pete, thanks for all your efforts on moving forward with the lead service line replacement. I think it's really important for the city. And I think we made some tremendous progress with this. So thank you. Thank you and your team. So I would make a motion to approve the funding allocations in support of the ongoing lead service line replacement program.
I would second that.
Thank you, Pete. I agree, Pete. Appreciate it. We're down to about 1,500 lots is what I'm hearing, right? All right, any other comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Item C on our agenda, review and take possible action, hire Mead Hunt to provide engineering, design, and construction-related services for the biosolids dryer project for $344,000.
Okay, thank you. Tonight we have John Butt here with Mead Hunt, who can follow up with and answer any questions regarding the engineering, design, and construction services proposal that was included in the packet. We're backing up into September 24. This project was presented to this commission by Mead Hunt, and John was here. We took some action and we approved to pursue this contract proposal for engineering and project management. On November 19th, the wastewater department capital budget was approved and included this biosolids dryer project in our 2025 capital outlay. We do have provided the estimates on the project in our earlier meeting in September for the dryer. We still have not selected the dryer itself, although we have narrowed in on the technology that we are based upon the discussions we had earlier and the estimate budget that we set. Tonight, I'm looking for a recommendation to hire Mead Hunt to provide our engineering, design, and construction-related services for our biosolids dryer project for $344,000. Are there any questions that John can help answer at this point? Actually, I've been working with Mead Hunt when they were Symbion previously since 2020 with our biogas, searching for ways to use our biogas in biosolids processor anaerobic digestion. So we've come a long way, and of course, you remember we got our Department of Energy grant for the combined heat and power engine was submitted, and we came back with the solar project. We currently have the solar project out for bid, and Mead Hunt is administering that for us as well.
Gentlemen, questions?
This was one of our short-term projects, right? In the plan, the master plan? Or was this started before the,
I'm sorry, could you repeat your question?
we have the short-term, mid-term, and long-term plans at the treatment plant? This is a short-term project?
This was pulled out separately, independent of those facility improvement plans, as our biosolids process is in the facilities plan includes controls. This is the dryer, which takes the finished product and further processes. So it's separate from that.
What's the total approved budget for the project?
It was estimated at $10 million. So we had discussed in September and brought forward, and we felt that was would meet the needs. We ranged a little bit in there. Some of the technologies we looked at were a bit more expensive. And at the time, it was the all-electric dryer that provided the biggest bang for our buck and simplicity and maintenance options for that technology. However, we are still looking at technologies that are out there that meet this price range. We have, Tim and I took a trip up to Marionette and we looked at their dryer. We also have scheduled trips to look at a couple other dryers yet before we decide. That does not impact moving forward with our design and construction related services. That is before you tonight.
Are these services part of the 10 million?
Yes.
Gentlemen, questions? Somebody want to make a motion?
Sure. Yeah, I moved to hire Mead Hunt to provide engineering, design, construction related services for the biosolids dryer project for $344,000.
Okay, we have a motion with support. Any other questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, moving on to item D, review and take possible action, approve the purchase of a combination sewer cleaner truck. Wondered if you were gonna talk to me.
Yeah, this is I've been working on this, for, better part of this year. This, combination sewer cleaner truck is, a really vital piece of equipment that we use, daily, not just our department, but other departments for the hydro excavating and the like. The current unit we have is, over 10 years old, and we are on a 10-year replacement plan for this vehicle. We got 6 bids from 4 different vendors. We then took the bids and we reviewed them for things like the overall price, technical specifications, performance, warranty, delivery timeline, supplier experience and reputation. We demoed every single one of these trucks to make sure that our staff that uses them on a daily basis, liked the different features that they have, because they're all very customizable. So when we narrow down, like, these are all the features that we really want, the truck that best fit our needs and is well within our budget, was the Super Products truck and from Arnown. The base price for that is $532,551. They are going to, they offered a trade-in value for our current truck of $51,000, and then also they offer a demo discount. So when the new truck is ready, they will use it as a demo truck for 2 months, just around the area, let people use it for, like an hour or something. they'll give us that discount, and then our warranty, it doesn't count against our warranty. So our warranty will start on the day that we actually receive the truck. So we thought that that was a good idea, save a little money. So I am looking for, my recommendation is to select the truck from R Now for a total price of $475,308.
What's your budget line item for this?
The budget is a 600,000. There are some specialty nozzles for this that we've had demoed recently that we would like to purchase, and we will use the money left over in the budget for some of those items, and we'll bring that back now that we know that we're definitely are able to get the truck under budget.
Mr. Chairman, I would make that motion to accept the bid for 475,308 from R Now.
Their support?
I'll second it.
Any questions from the commissioners?
Yeah, how long to get the truck? How long to deliver it?
It's, oh boy. I'm pretty sure it's in the spring. I think it was like, they wanted like 3 or 4 months. It says in here, I'm not for sure, but it was, it's this spring sometime.
That's not bad.
No,
No.
no, they have a facility, like within an hour of here where they build them all. We did go take a tour of that factory. It was really impressive. And the other nice thing about this, having that so close, is they also have parts to build, like 20 of these trucks in stock at all times. So if we need something, we could drive an hour and get it, so that was another really nice, because like I said, this thing is so vital. Like, if it's down, we need it back running again immediately in case we have a sewer backup or something, or a lift station or whatever. So
It's understandable.
Explain the life cycle. You're talking about a $500,000 vehicle that's gonna last for 10 years.
Mhm.
Is that just because of what it's being used for? Is it?
Yeah, yes. So we'd, because it is such a large ticket item, we do our best to make this vehicle last 10 years. We're very comfortable with that time frame. But also, because of its vital importance, we don't want to go past that, where, if we say, oh, let's do it every 15 years, we might be in a case where we're limping it along, and that's just that we can't have that. So the truck we have now on this 10-year rotation, it still performs excellent. It's in great shape. The guys take a ton of pride in keeping this equipment working and looking great. And so I think that's the reason that Watertown has historically put this on a 10-year rotation.
Okay. So we have a motion with support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, item E, review and take possible action, hire Strand Associates to complete phase 1 route refinement and preliminary design for the West Side Sanitary Sewer Interceptor Project for $28,500.
Okay, thank you. Going back into May, this was discussed as a future project in our CMAR report. We had a little bit of discussion on it at that time, and we were asked to bring it back later. We spent some time reviewing this project, and included with your packet on my summary, I provided some background for everybody, dating back to some meetings that the Public Works Commission had in 2007 by Mr. Lange in Applied Technologies, where they were reviewing this project and looking at parts of it, and I think at that time it was Highway 19 they were looking at, and then they did review it again in 2007 regarding the Highway 26 bypass. There were conduits put in under the bypass around the west side of the city for future sanitary sewer service in those areas. April of 2023, we were provided a concept idea of a new subdivision by Loose Homes, which was outside of the city, in the specific service area we called the sub area Southwest 2. So over the course of the last year and a half since April of 2023, when we had the first indication that something was going to happen outside of our current sewer service area, we began reviewing the plan and talking about it internally, regarding supporting development in that area. How would we do it? Does it work without it? This plan is pretty old and things like that. So we continue to look at that and discuss it. It had been identified for many years as a future project. In June of 2023, Strand did complete a study on the Milford Street sanitary sewer, a capacity analysis, which was related to 3 proposed developments and expansion in using our current collection system. We're seeing those come to fruition right now with the Rock River Ridge subdivision, which is moving right along. In addition to that, the property that Bethesda sold on the west side of the railroad tracks, which is currently in agriculture, owned by a farmer, and then the old Camp Mott's, which converted to Jefferson County's use. In addition to that, the city owns land that we're marketing along Milford Street. And we also had reached out to our current customers using that collection system during that capacity evaluation. And what we found was that we would be at 100% capacity on Milford Street with all the proposed development in those 3 areas, which was over 700 lots or homes, if you will, not to mention some expansion in the industry in that area. So what we did is in August, that property actually did annex into the city, and we worked with the developer to lay it out to use the existing sanitary sewer on Milford Street with a future easement and sanitary line to connect to a future west side interceptor. So when we were also shared, the city was shared with some additional concepts of further development in that area, which would be utilizing the west side interceptor. So it is beginning. In September, we discussed this interceptor again with the development and these drainage basins, and in October, solicited for quotes using a defined scope of work. And what we received were a scope from Strand, Applied Technologies, and Donahue. So what we're looking for tonight is we reviewed these internally and we discussed these. We had 2 very close quotes in price and like $150 off, very close. But what we decided was that we would like to recommend awarding this to Strand and Associates to complete the phase 1 route refinement and preliminary design for the West Side Sanitary Sewer Interceptor project for a price of $28,500. And Mr. Board, we're taking the review and take action that I have not my recommendation, which I see I worded differently. My apologies on that one again.
Sorry, but you're asking us to approve the hiring of Strand Associates to complete phase 1 route refinement and preliminary design for the West Side Sanitary Sewer Interceptor project for $28,500.
Correct.
And both of those bids that were $150 apart met the specifications and everything was included.
Yes. Well, Andrew also looked them over. We felt that way. Yes, sir. And we currently do have Strand also working on our Alderman lift station relay project. So they are currently actively involved with our sanitary sewer system in that regard.
I do recall that. Gentlemen? Motion by Wetzel, is there support?
I'll support.
Andrew, this went to the Plan Commission, whatever date today is, Tuesday, right? So Monday night. What's the next step for the developer?
From the Plan Commission perspective, they've got their preliminary plat approved with conditions. The developer's probably going to start design in the next couple of months, and then final plat and the development agreement will come back to the Plan Commission and the Common Council.
So there is some time frame before it comes back.
That particular one, yes. That development can be served with our existing infrastructure. There are, through this plan that Pete's proposing tonight, that connection in the future, but they can be served with existing infrastructure currently. There is existing capacity. This is just kind of planning for the future.
But there is an additional development that they discussed
Potentially,
going
yeah.
further south, yeah.
Right.
So my dumb question is, what about water? We're talking about sanitary sewer tonight. What about water?
We have water mains over in that area where we plan to extend. Important to remind everyone about the water main extensions. We don't see any thing popping out right away, but there will be loops needed. We'll have to do some main extensions along Milford Street. That would be at the expense of the developers to loop the system. For this current annexation that was completed in the current project moving forward, the water mains will be extended and looped within that subdivision. To extend them further out, there will be more discussion about Milford Street water main extension.
So I assume that's all part of the engineering that Andrew talked about. It's taking place.
More like the long-range planning. For the kind of the standalone 48 lots that went to Plan Commission yesterday, they're good standing alone, but as they develop further out, they'll need to extend utilities like Pete's describing.
All right, we have a motion with support. Is there any other comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, item F, discussion regarding the stormwater utility billing overview. Hi, Maureen. Yeah, it's kind of hard once you get settled in, isn't it?
Oh, I'll give you.
That would be cool. Thank you. So I need to sign into the meeting for that then, right?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to sign into that meeting and we will be there in just a second.
So I can give some background on this one while Maureen sets up. This is in response to citizen comments at the November Public Works Commission meeting regarding stormwater utility rates and kind of what they all go towards. So tonight at Public Works, we're just giving a broad overview of some of the historical background of our stormwater utility. what those rates cover and some of the projects and programs that we currently operate under the utility. Zach, can you see the screen?
Yes, sir, I can. Thank you.
Great.
I got a little Frog Creek at least, Marine.
Well, the frogs are, their story, that's the Suicide Park Creek, and there was a good project that done this year. However, that's not what my screen shows. So. I can believe, but I actually tested this out today too.
Sure.
I didn't stop sharing that.
looking at your screensaver.
I stopped sharing that. How did I do?
Luckily, I got mine turned on today. Yeah, we had something there. Back to your screensaver.
There you go.
Very, very close.
Zach, can you see that?
Okay. My computer says I am sharing something. Shall we just try it? Okay, let's do this. So we are here today to do a stormwater utility overview. This was brought up by some residents who inquired as to what their stormwater monthly utility charges were about and what they paid for, especially for properties where there are no storm sewer pipe systems in front of their homes. So we're going to do a quick review today. We're going to hit the monthly stormwater utility charges and who pays those, as well as the service charges and the rates table. And then to look at what exactly we're funding for the stormwater utility. So stormwater utility started in about 2006, the mid 2000s. Looking for a yes. Ish, yes, I got a yes. Chapter 453 of the municipal ordinance is what governs this. All of the properties within the city with impervious surfaces receive monthly stormwater utility charges. So anything with impervious surface being a pavement of some sort, driveways, sidewalks, rooftops, parking lots, this is what generates stormwater runoff, therefore those are the ones that get charged.
Basically.
Yep, anything that has hard surface. So the only ones that are not charged will be a vacant piece of ground. Undeveloped properties, we don't have a lot of them, but there are a few. There's also a credit program that we have. There's still a charge applied to those properties, but there can be a reduction in the pollutant or the volume credits. So that would be for commercial, industrial, and institutional sites that do stormwater management over and above what they're required to do. For residential properties, we offer a $40 one-time rebate for installation of a rain barrel or a rain garden or some kind of stormwater feature. The service charge rates table is set in code that was revised in 2020. And you'll see on this table, we have a certain charge for the volume ERU. We have a charge for a pollutant ERU, and there's a monthly administration charge as well. So your flat rate for single family homes is about $12.52 each month. For industrial, institutional, commercial, those types of properties are based on the amount of impervious. So a larger parking lot is going to have a larger monthly charge. So what can be funded through a stormwater utility, again, is laid out in chapter 453. Basically, it is to pay for the stormwater management program. And that's for anything dealing with stormwater management programs. So we're talking about construction, we're talking about studies, we're talking about maintenance, anything to do with dredging, replacing pipe materials, we're talking about repairing things. It could be anything that's on the surface or underground, so storm sewers, storm ditches, roadside swales. This also includes all our stormwater BMPs and really anything having to do with stormwater management. Few examples of what is funded through stormwater utility will fall under our flood control, our pollutant control program, pollutant control being our MS4 permit, and then also system maintenance. And system maintenance, we'll see in a second, includes street reconstruction. A lot of our funds are also going towards a portion of street reconstruction, similar to streets is paying a portion of that, water pays a portion of that, sewer pays a portion of that, depending on the road, depending on the site. So you'll probably remember that we finished a flood control study back in February of this year. There was a number of areas identified for urban stormwater flooding, with 15 areas were prioritized. Our next step with those sites is to start looking at them on a site-specific basis to do an in-depth drainage study and design of the solutions for the flooding that happens there. Wherever we can, we try to overlap these measures with water quality measures that will get us closer to our TMDL goals. And we try to evaluate for grant opportunities also to minimize the cost. So we're looking at design and construction on a number of different sites in, I'd say somewhat near future, going into the distant future, because we have 15 different sites and these are multi-year projects each. Moving from the flood control, we moved into the water pollution control. So these are our water quality efforts to try and meet our DNR MS4 permit. You know that we've been putting in a lot of biofilters. We've gotten grants for some of those recently. We put permeable paver systems in. The city has both private and publicly owned stormwater BMPs that have to be inspected and maintained. There's an illicit discharge program where we are out testing water coming out of storm sewer outfalls to see if there's any pollutants in there that should not be there. We're also looking at implementing our water quality trading program further to meet those TMDL goals within the MS4 permit. We're also looking at doing erosion control inspections on construction sites, both public sites as well as private sites. We have a good stormwater outreach program that we work on both specifically here in the city as well as with the Rock River Stormwater Group. And there are mapping and reporting requirements as well. And all those items I just mentioned are required to be done annually by DNR. We also have a pretty substantial maintenance program. We have found that it's definitely beneficial to do the maintenance ahead of time before there's a problem. So we have a cleaning and televising program that we just completed year 3 of. We're trying to get that into a 5-year rotation, maybe a 6-year rotation, just depending on the budget and how much pipe we can get done each year. This is just an example of some of the collapsing pipe in progress that we are that we found through that inspection process. And the picture up in the corner was the replacement of that pipe. So our crews, the equipment they use to replace the pipe itself, the time it takes to dig and do the work, this is all paid for by the stormwater utility. Additional maintenance activities that we do include some of the street reconstruction projects. There is infrastructure that needs to be evaluated, studied, modeled, designed, upsized in some places. I'd say modified in other places. We also have additions to storm sewer system that are coming into play, especially with our mini storm system that we've been working on the past couple of years as well, to try and resolve some of these flooding issues. We've got culvert repairs and replacements. Our BMPs, as mentioned earlier, all need maintenance annually. The stormwater ditches and roadside swales also need regrading and stabilization on a routine basis. And of course, any of the infrastructure design and modeling. So we're not just out willy-nilly doing this work. We want to make sure we're going to do it right, and then be able to walk away for a few years and just do some routine maintenance on it at that point. A couple other examples of what stormwater utility has been funding includes the equipment purchase, staff time to implement the stormwater programs, such as street sweeping, leaf collection, catch basin cleaning, storm sewer inlet outlet repairs. It did not include winter road management, but it's another piece of it with the brine system we're looking at. So, and of course, the training on how to use the equipment, the training on how to implement these programs. These are all, again, things that stormwater utility goes towards. And it's just an example of one particular site where we've got an older culvert. It goes into a culvert, goes underneath a few roads before it pops out again. My coworker is standing next to the culvert, but up on the bank, so you kind of get a gauge of the size of this. The safety grate here is easily manipulated, and this would be a great place to upgrade this site. It needs work.
Come on. The upgrading of that site is covered.
A better style, maybe a more current style of safety grate on there.
But the cost of that upgrade is covered.
It would be covered through the stormwater utility. I will say this is an older style, older culvert. There's not a lot of room to work in, and so our estimates there were a little bit higher than a standard safety grate would cost.
Where's that at?
It's in the backyard of a residential property over on Utah Street. This is where this ditch goes west. It goes underneath Utah, daylights again into an open channel, and then it goes underneath South Church Street, and then daylights again just south of the Aldi's parking lot. So if these bars are out of here and there's a good flow going through there, that culvert gets, I'd say, easily a third to a halfway filled when it is a good rain event. And there's a good flow going through there.
In 2018, we had a lot of debris that got caught up here that our crews were manually pulling out. So this one does catch a lot of debris in those size of events.
So, yeah, I would have been playing in that. I guarantee I would have been in that. I can show you the spots I used to play in, but I have to ask the obvious question. You talked about all the stuff that's included. What's not included? What's an event that wouldn't be paid for?
Well, we just applied for a grant for a study on the West Side Creek system, so that we could get a study done that has not been budgeted for at this point, to take advantage of some grant funding. Trying to lay the groundwork to work towards the flood control solutions are not things we necessarily have funded right now, but
And generally with surface flooding, you design to a certain event. So your street storm sewer system might be designed to pass a 10-year event. It might not be cost effective to put, bigger pipe to handle a larger event that wouldn't be, full most of the time. Our BMPs are generally designed for 100-year events. So kind of the rule of thumb and what we say in the office is you're always going to have flooding. You really can throw infinite money at this and you're still probably going to have flooding somewhere. It's just finding that balance and cost effectiveness to mitigate flooding to the best of our ability and with the resources that we have.
Can't think of how to ask the question. So if you have that flooding, what are you saying?
we're designing, we're working on a stormwater management program to control flooding that will leave arterial roads open and passable for emergency vehicles and for at least one lane traffic to get through. So there may still be standing water in the road, but it's going to be shallow enough that cars can get through. We're trying to mitigate those areas that we have historic flooding, where roads get closed or where properties, infrastructure see problems due to the flooding on a regular basis.
Yeah, like Main Street underneath the train overpass.
Yes,
But
that's
my
what I'm.
question is, you kept saying these are covered by the stormwater budget, by the fees that we're paying,
Mhm.
right? My question is, what costs aren't covered? So if you have that flooding event, I'm assuming you just allow the water to dissipate,
Yeah.
right?
Well, unless there's any pumping that would have to happen. If there's something going on, there's pumping that would have to happen. If there's emergency vehicles that need to get through somewhere, we need to somehow clear the water
And
faster.
then how is that covered?
If we have a major event like that, is there,
Our street division has a couple of portable pumps that we'll put out if there's a known area or flooding. We put out barricades if there's kind of a known road that floods.
So those funds would just come through the street division, through their normal budget. That's what I'm asking. I'm just trying to understand.
Yes. So the stormwater utility covers some of the staff time in the street division, so there's kind of some overlap there, but generally, yeah, the labor would come from the street division and the signs.
I think one other thing, maybe just to mention, kind of go around your question, we're trying to project out and work through our capital improvement program. We're trying to look at not only a 5-year plan, but what happens in year 6, 7, 8. We know that some of the planning for these projects is going to take a couple of years before we even get to design, much less bidding and implementation. So we're strategically trying to forecast out how long is it going to take to solve a number of different problems. If we had all sorts of money, we could do a whole bunch more right now. But because we are limited on stormwater utility funds, we have to just stretch out the implementation of the work. So I think what we focused on here is a lot of the annual work that we have to do. The larger projects to solve the flood control problems and really get towards the water quality goals to reduce the pollution and stuff, those larger BMPs, they're out. They're out multiple years out.
And they're not part of your standard stormwater budget.
They're not part of the CIP or 5-year capital improvement plan. They'd be a standalone capital project. And the good news is there's no debt in the utility, so we could work with Mark Stevens and finance to, take on debt to fund some of these bigger projects if we needed to.
Perfect. I'm not complaining. I appreciate all you're doing. I think you guys are doing a great job. I'm just trying to understand some of those other issues, right?
I would say one other thing that's not paid for is the IT training for your stormwater project manager. Just saying.
I'm gonna put that in the minutes,
We're not
just so we're
complaining.
clear.
Oh, you're seeing, that's fine.
He's already at him.
I'm not sure if everybody else is seeing what we're seeing, but we're seeing it. Okay, any other questions from you all? Thanks, Maureen. That was wonderful. Appreciate it much. Appreciate your hard work. Item G, review and take possible action, the Hart Street Drainage Study.
All right, so a good segue from kind of what we were just discussing on some of our larger standalone flooding mitigation projects. Marina mentioned that we did a citywide stormwater plan that was wrapped up kind of earlier this year. We had our committee of the whole meeting. And one of the areas that was identified as a kind of a further deep dive area was this Hart Street basin. So with us tonight, we have Steve Worster with Ruckert and Milky to give an overview of the study, go through some of the recommendations, and we'll talk next steps.
Thank you.
What kind of IT budget do you guys have at Rucker and Milky?
Find out.
See,
You're doing fine.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Andrew. Good evening, Commission. I know I've seen some of you before, those that I haven't met. Thank you for having Katie and I here tonight. So just maybe a little bit of history. I think our goal here today is kind of tell a story. We'll do it in a quick way. I know it's been a long evening already, but do it in a quick way, but just kind of walk you through what's been done with regards to Hart Street. Like Andrew said, the conversation that you just got done with was a fantastic segue into this. This is one of those bigger problem areas. It was a problem area back when I started working in the city, which was back when Pete was still the assistant city engineer. 20 some years ago. It's always been one of the worst areas in the city. And so we'll kind of walk through what's been done and really where we need to go from here. So first off, just kind of who's been touching this project. So on the city side, Andrew and Maureen have been really the primary individuals kind of carrying the water, good pun. It's, you know, as severe rain events come and go, this is an area that oftentimes complaints and calls come in from, and so they're fielding them, and they're keeping the planning action moving forward. On our side, on Ruckert and Milky's side, so I mentioned I've been working in the city for many, many years on stormwater projects back from the early 2000s. In fact, one of my first projects here in the city was helping to get the utility actually created. So, you know, it's kind of neat to see it. Yeah, it's neat to see it doing what it's supposed to be doing, for sure. Terry Tavera was our project manager on this project that we'll talk about. He's not here tonight, but Katie Vandenberg is, so she's in the red in the back. She's a stormwater engineer at R&M, did really a lot of the deep dive with the computer modeling, the alternatives analysis. So if there are any detailed technical questions, she can certainly help on that. So just kind of want to start high level. You all know this, you live here, most of you grew up here. You know, Watertown is called Watertown for a reason, right? It's long been associated with water. We know that we've got this beautiful river running through the city, these two dams. Water moves pretty slowly. It's pretty flat. You know, it's not like out in Colorado when a drop of water falls, it goes away very quickly. Here in Watertown, that's not the case. It takes a long time to get from where it lands to ultimately to the river by some way, shape, or form, just because it is pretty flat. Groundwater is relatively high, so we know that's an issue. And then just you think about how the city developed. That's a picture from the late 1800s, and it really kind of went outward from the river. We know that design standards have changed many, many times over the 150 plus years. So a storm sewer that was installed 100 years ago was sized appropriately 100 years ago. The design standards today are much different than that. We would say that's probably undersized today. And then just this impact of future development. It's, you know, you're always kind of projecting what you think is going to happen in the future, but you never quite know until the development actually happens. So, you know, as engineers and planners, we're doing our best to plan ahead, but it is a little bit of a best guess. So I want to kind of walk back to 2018, that storm event came up in the previous presentation from Maureen. We had like 9 inches of rain in 14 hours, probably remember it was chaos everywhere. The wastewater system was chaos. The stormwater system was chaos. So we've got a couple pictures from around the viaduct. And did you at the plant? That's insane. That's a lot of rain. We'll see if this works.
Mhm.
All right, we're not gonna get out.
Yeah, Brandon Rook live in Watertown with the latest on
The
the
90-second
water
video.
log. Brandon.
Steve and Carol, people tell me that they were very worried this morning as the rain continued to fall from overnight. As you can see here on Highway 19, the road still remains closed. It's been closed for hours. And further down, you can see this abandoned SUV from this morning. It's currently being towed out of the water. It's been sitting there for almost 4 to 5 hours now. How do you rank this?
I've never seen flooding this bad.
Some say it's the most significant weather event ever, more than 8.5 inches, and it's quite a scene. For some, it's fun, but for others, it engulfed their car.
No, our slogan is turn around, don't drown. A lot of times people think they can make it through flooded roadways, but it's the most common way that people die from heavy rainfall and flash flooding like this.
Tim Hallback, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, captured this heroic scene of crews desperately trying to save this driver.
Trying to save the
It
beer.
was
in the
pretty
can.
nasty
Yeah.
as water
Yeah, the highlight
also
was
got
there.
into people's basements.
This isn't the only basement that got water in it right now.
As of right now, there have been no reported injuries, something community members are grateful for.
Everybody stayed safe, and that's the best outcome possible.
The fire department tells me they had to make at least 2 water vehicle rescues this morning. They also ask drivers not to drive through the barricades and the road closures. From Water.
All right, you get the gist. It was a lot of rain. It caused a lot of problems. Like Maureen mentioned, we're never gonna eliminate flooding. It just isn't possible. There's always gonna be a rain event that's gonna be bigger than anything that we as technical people can plan for. But what we're trying to do is find that cost-effective level of what can we do to make it better that is still relatively cost-effective. So with that history, in 2022 and 23, the city had actually planned to reconstruct Hart Street. And it wasn't necessarily just because of stormwater problems. It had pavement failures and it was ready for reconstruction. There were utility needs underneath the pavement, including stormwater management. That's a project that R&M actually, the city hired us to do. And as we got into the detailed design of that, we pretty quickly realized that there was no effective way, cost-effective way to meet the city stormwater goals, which was to provide ideally protection for these severe storm events without a more regional solution. It just wasn't physically possible. You know, you go into a situation like this and you generally think, okay, if the pipes are undersized, we'll put bigger pipes in and that'll solve the problem. Well, in this case, we couldn't do it. There was a lack of cover over the top of the pipes, which limited physically how big the pipes we could put in. Again, not a lot of grade between the river and the low spot in this area. There was no path for the water to go out if it couldn't get into the pipe. And so it really quickly became apparent that we needed to do something more regional beyond just Hart Street, and more analysis was needed. So the city actually made a very wise decision, said we don't want to invest any money in Hart Street if we know we're going to have to do something bigger down the road. So pulled that project from the road work and said, let's spend some time in the future trying to figure out what we need to do. Concurrent to all that, we had this large scale flood control plan that was happening. Maureen mentioned that. I won't read all these goals. These are kind of the overarching goals of what that study was, but the idea was to keep public roadways passable. Maureen mentioned that. Was to keep our wastewater facilities functional and other critical infrastructure workable during these severe events. We wanted to reduce street and urban flooding, reduce basement backups. We wanted to find those most severe areas, try to run through a bunch of different alternatives to figure out what the best solution was, develop recommendations, prioritize those recommendations, and try to identify some grant funding that we could sync up with the recommendations to try and reduce the overall cost. While doing that, we wanted to consider kind of future growth areas in the city, potential redevelopment sites in the city, and ultimately kind of have this playbook that the city could use to start to incorporate the recommendations in the future projects and future redevelopment efforts, as those things kind of bubble to the top. Just a picture of, this is the 500-year event, so this is a very severe event. Not one that happens very often, but it just gives you a sense. Anywhere you see color, that's flooding on the surface. So not intended to see the details, but just give you some sense that there's concerns across the city. We took those concerns. We're engineers and technical people, so we got very engineer-y and said, well, how do we figure out across the city which areas we should focus on? Again, knowing that budget and time is limited. So we looked at all of these different factors here: frequency of flooding, historic flooding, how bad was the flooding, did it impact structures or not, what was the land use, was there sanitary sewer concerns that went with it, are there other community impacts? And that allowed us to kind of sort through the noise and land on 15 higher priority projects that kind of bubbled to the top that we decided to do a deeper dive on. And Hart Street was one of those areas. So Hart Street itself, in that yellowish orange highlight, you can kind of see where we're talking. So south-ish side of the city, kind of southwest of Waukesha, of Washington Park, east of the river, south of the railroad tracks. 3rd Street's the boundary on the left, 12th Street on the right, on the east. Couple of pictures to give you some sense of what's happening in Hart Street. This is also from 2018. So a picture actually along Hart Street, and then a picture of Washington Park at Sunset Avenue. So as part of that flood control master plan, we did spend some time kind of diving into this area. We looked primarily in the section between 9th and 12th Street with this project. Ideally, we were shooting for all of these 15 areas that we looked at. We were looking for trying to find a solution that essentially eliminated flooding up to that 100-year design. So that design that has or that storm event that has a 1% chance of occurring in any given year. We found out pretty quickly that was a tall task in this area, which we kind of knew already, but we wanted to take a fresh look at it. So in order to get to that 100-year level of protection, we upsized the pipes, we added some underground detention, we actually had to add a pump station, which in the world of stormwater management is a very unique and kind of last resort thing, because we know it brings additional maintenance needs. It's not a solution that you want to use unless you kind of absolutely have to. And it was a big price tag. You can see that the price to do all that was 8.2 million. And that's where we had this solution that had this very high level of protection, again, up to that 1% chance in any given year event. So about 6 inches of rain in a 24-hour period, but it was expensive. Andrew and Maureen and our team talked in quite some length about the cost, and also this idea of a pump station being involved. Really didn't like that from a maintenance perspective. Knowing in those times of need, your staff are going to be out doing other things, and now they got to worry about a pump that may or may not be functioning. So it was not an alternative that anybody was real excited about. I'll say that. Mm-hmm. So with that, we said, okay, we did this high level analysis, have this solution, not super happy. We probably need to dive in a little bit deeper and look at some of the details, the nuanced details of the site in particular. So kind of taking this 10,000-foot view and trying to dial it down into more site-specific conditions. And so that's what the result, or that's what we're going to talk through with the next 6 or 7 slides here, are this detailed look at Hart Street in itself. So we took the recommendation that was done from the master plan. We kind of dove into it. We modeled more of the stormwater system than we had done previously. So it was a higher level of detail on the stormwater system. The idea was to expand the area a little bit, go all the way to 3rd Street. So the worst area was between 3rd and 10th Streets. Ideally, we wanted the streets passable which meant less than 6 inches of water on the roadway. Ideally for the 100-year design storm, we found out pretty quickly that, again, there was just no cost-effective way to do that. So we landed on this realistic solution that said, okay, let's move the level of protection down to a 10-year design storm, which is 4+ inches of rain in a 24-hour period. So about a 10% chance in happening in any given single year. Still is going to make things much, much better for the 100-year event, but there's a more cost-effective solution in there, trying to, again, balance dollars versus level of protection. The reason Hart Street is such a challenge, it's a topographic low spot. The pipes are too small, quite frankly. The storm sewer is just too small. There's no way for the water to get out either. So I think of like a bathtub or a sink bowl was a good analogy, where you've got this drain pipe at the bottom, which is the storm sewer. And when you start putting a whole bunch of water in the bathtub, the drain can only take so much. And at some point, the bathtub starts filling up, which is what happens here. And at some point, the bathtub, it overtops. And that's what happens in the Hart Street area. So again, anywhere you see color on that exhibit, there was surface flooding for the more severe rain events. So I'm going to fly through these alternatives in the interest of time. We looked at a bunch of different alternatives, different routes, different combinations of pipe sizes. Some included storage, some didn't. This option actually did address the design condition, the 10-year level of protection. Did it at a cost of $2.3 million. Option B, slightly different system. You can see the discharges to the river at a different location actually did not meet the design goals. So we threw that one out. Option C had some underground storage, so a little bit smaller pipe system and more storage at site. This option did meet the design conditions, price tag of $2.3 million. Option D, not understand underground storage, new storm sewer kind of throughout the region. This version did not meet the design conditions, so we threw that one out. And option E, the one we ended up moving forward with, did meet the design goals and includes a storm sewer relay in purple. So that in purple is spots where you see purple on the map, it's spots where there is existing storm sewer that would be replaced with bigger storm sewer. And then where there's orange, that's locations where there is no storm sewer today. That would be new storm sewer with this alternative. So right now the storm sewer kind of runs down Hart Street to the north on 3rd Street, and then exits kind of right through here over to the river. And so this actually would be adding a second outfall to the river and beefing up the system. Price tag of $1.8 million. So you can see the difference in magnitude of price. So we're talking like $8 million to deal with that 6 inches in 24-hour rainstorm. We're at about $2 million to deal with the 4 to 4.5 inches of rain in 24 hours. We felt like this was a better balance of benefit versus cost than the previous options. So where do we go from here? It's a fairly sizable project. And so I think the idea as we talked through it with Andrew and Maureen and the city was to do it in up to 4 phases. And so they're listed here. They're shown graphically on the next slide. So I think that's a kind of a better way. So phase 1 is in green. So that's kind of from the river running through the former SPX property down to Hart Street. Phase 2 in yellow is in Hart Street. And then phase 3 and 4, which are a little less critical to making all this work, you can see in blue and in purple. Talk about that. We do not. So
That's part of it. Because it was on the previous slide, acquisition of easements.
Great question, though. You are being smart. It's a good question. The pieces where we don't have easements are the new outfall to the river right through here. And then this chunk that goes kind of off the road right of way coming through. Yeah. The majority of phase 1, not all of it, but the majority of it. So as we think about phasing, that initial priority is to start those property owner permission discussions. So that's one of the first things that we think has to happen. Through you all are familiar with that site. Likely it's an old industrial area, so there may be some contamination issues that we have to figure out. So we would want to kind of work our way through figuring out what that all entails, determine where things stand from a development standpoint on that vacant site there. And then ultimately move forward with survey and design. And I think, Andrew, you've got maybe some context on the timing there.
Yep, so as part of the 2025 budget, design for this project was approved. So in Q1 of next year, we'd be looking to bring forward a proposal for review for the commission to move forward with that detailed engineering design, survey work. Easements might be part of that work, and then construction would follow once we work on easements, get design finalized, and then work through the bidding process. So it'll be a few years. Generally, it's a few years before shovels are in the ground from when you kick off design. So I think very aggressively, we'd be looking at the end of the 2020s to start this project. Yeah, we kicked around a few dates, nothing firm yet, but right around there. It will need to be, yeah, we'll have to look at contamination, probably a phase 1 environmental site assessment.
Yeah, the 1.8 includes, so the construction cost of the recommendation, so all 4 phases, plus the estimated design cost, which it would include the phase 1. If that sparks concerns, it does not include remediation costs.
Correct.
Yeah, I think it includes all the phases you see here. All of
But
those
it doesn't,
phases,
a phase
but-
2 environmental.
but not, yes, not the future phases of the environmental.
Remediation involved in a phase 2 or a phase 2.5.
Right. Yep.
If we're gonna seek and hopefully get a easement through that industrial site, any chance to widen that out and underground storage or a surface pond, or was that reviewed at all? Because it's
Potentially, yeah.
vacant, I don't know what the potential for that big of a site, but a couple acres less isn't gonna be a whole lot of difference in development.
Right. Yeah, we kicked around a lot of options on that particular site, including the things you described.
Yeah, I think all of those things are still in play. Pete, is a great question, and part of it kind of comes down to what other plans are available for that site. We could, an open channel is a possibility through there, but it gets pretty deep, which gets it pretty wide. So then you're losing some vacant land. So lots of possibilities.
Have the property owners been involved in this at all?
Not yet. No, we'd like to come to them with a plan before we approach them with any kind of easements or anything like that.
Gentlemen, I don't think there's anything you need from us tonight.
No, this is an update, kind of detailing next steps. The next actionable item will be that proposal for design next year.
So this is really good. I think it's a project that's, yeah, like you were saying, has been waiting a long time. We've had some discussions on Hart Street. As a street, it's a mess. You know, and to tell people you have to wait another, it looks like 4 years, potentially, right? So,
Depending what we run into.
Yeah.
The complexities.
And we should clarify that too, that the cost estimate that we have there does not include a full street reconstruction through there.
Yeah.
It's really
Yeah,
just to do the
that's what-
stormwater piece of that.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right, Commissioner, that the street in that area needs some work too. So if you do decide to kind of do it together, the total project cost is likely more than what you see here.
Which would be
Thank you.
logic to do, obviously,
Yeah.
right? If you're gonna do it, do it.
Right. Right.
Yeah. What else?
Are there any other questions?
What's the number 2 location on your list?
Next best alternative is everything.
Boy. We tried to take advantage and dovetail our flood mitigation areas with our annual street and utility program, so our 5-year CIP. I don't want to speak out of turn. Lafayette Street, is that kind of the next one that we're looking at here?
Do a study like this, yeah, Lafayette Street, we're looking at doing it as phase 1, phase 2. Blocks with the road reconstruction project. In the upcoming years, that's in our capital improvement plan, and then phase 2 would also be Lafayette Street, getting that. The other ones to kind of maybe a parallel track with that have to do with the West Main Street viaduct and then a few sites along that creek system there, which brings back to the grant application we submitted recently. request, we'll see how we do.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Thank you very much. That was very informative. Appreciate it much. Let's see, where am I at? Item H, review and take possible action, modified US cellular lease agreement for 106 Jones Street Communications Tower.
All right, so this item previously came before the commission in June of this year, and it went to council in July. Since approval at the council level, US Cellular is requesting modifications to the lease agreement. So over the past few months, the city attorney's office, US Cellular, and SCH have been finalizing kind of the revised details of this lease agreement. The changes just really center around the number of exhibits that are included in the agreement. However, with the change, we do need commission approval and council approval. So the revised agreement is in the packet for review and possible action.
Well, I will move to approve the Second Amendment to Tower and Ground Space Lease between US Cellular and the City of Watertown, located at 106 Jones Street in Watertown. Okay, I have a motion with support. Was there any questions or comments on this from the commissioners? Not that I'm hungry, just, you know.
What came up that we didn't know in June or whenever?
I'm not really sure. The exhibits that are included in this version were included in the original version that was previously approved. They just pared down the number of plan sheets
Okay.
that were in the original.
Because I'm sure it'll come up at city council.
The ink wasn't dry.
All right, anything else? All right, we have a motion with support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, item 5 on the agenda is adjournment. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Is
Support.
there all in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned at 7:02. What are you whining about now?